So I'm talking to myself. I just made the beds. I'm about to go for my walk. I have 3 more hours until my children are home. I'm going to go walk for 2, bring an apple, some potatoes, and some apricots with me, and come back by 7:30 so I can unwind and just get ready for my kids to come home and have bedtime. So I just want to add to this whole I'm the boss of me, who's the boss of you series that I'm doing, and I just started thinking about, now this applies to men and women. Some people, many people, are in marriages and they are completely miserable, and yet they choose to stay, and somehow they believe that there's integrity in that. And on some level there is, there is integrity in staying and trying to work things out. But at some point, I won't name names or anything, but I know several situations, and mine included, where in these cases it was the men. The men were completely miserable. They were unhappy motherfuckers. They were so unhappy. And basically everyone could see that, for the most part, even though they had this external, maybe people who didn't know them very well thought that they were perfectly happy. But anyone who knew them for real would know, like, these people are completely unfulfilled. They are not living their life in any way that means anything to them other than sticking to this almost like suicidal level of misery just to stay with someone, just to keep the family together. I'm sure people who don't have children do this. The cases that I'm talking about specifically were people who had children, and it was like, I refuse to allow this facade of the family unit to break and admit that I'm fucking miserable. And yet at the same time, I am not willing to change in any way to make things different, So I just hate that, and I don't want to be that, and I don't want to find that. I'm not looking for a man who, under any circumstances, I will stay with you no matter how miserable I make you, no matter how miserable I am, no matter how miserable you make me. I'm just going to stay here and be miserable. It's one thing to say, like, no matter how bad it gets, as long as we treat each other with respect and kindness and are genuinely interested in each other as lovers and friends and companions and life partners and lifestyle partners, your lifestyle has to align with mine, like, I'm someone who I'm very into diving deep, as Ralph Smart says, and Teal Swan, the spiritual catalyst, learning how to seriously go back into our childhood traumas and heal them. It's not about, I'm just going to fucking go back just to talk about it over and over and over and relive it and relive it and relive it. I'm going to relive it so that me, as this much more matured, much more spiritually aware, much more emotionally intelligent, hopefully developing person, much stronger physically, much more capable of things, because when you're a grown-up, there's many, many things you can do that you can't do as a child. I feel like my voice was getting annoying. Whiny, so to go back into the past purposefully so that you can relive the things that hurt you, the experiences that hurt you, the trauma, the repetitive behaviors, the cyclical nature of certain ways that, you may have been treated. And, just a quick note, the other day I watched this series about the narcissistic mother, and there were about 24 pretty short videos. It was just a woman's voice, and then each one had just one image that would be there the whole thing. And it It was chilling to the bone. It was so scary and sad and horrible thinking and listening to this, that this is how some mothers treat their children. And, you know, I was definitely like, okay, I am not a narcissistic mom, although, you know, there was like a couple of things I was like, oh, I could be much better with that, you know. So it was really good, I think, for anyone to hear, but it was also just so sad. Like, God, you know, how must it be like to live with a parent who treats you in this way? And how was it like for me to live with my biological mother for the first almost 5 years of my life? You know, what did that child experience that I don't remember? And I'm not going to go get hypnotized, and, you know, I don't need to like go to that extent, and some people may want to because they feel it's important. You know, for me, it's more just about like kind of David Friedman style, you know, going into the memory and just being with those sensations and feeling the sensations that come into my body. And then at the same time, thinking about my grown-up self who now is a mom, who does know how to care for and love and take care of and be there and nurture children, that I could nurture the child that I was and the baby that I was and heal those pains. So I can let go and say, you know what? I don't need to act from that hurt place, because wherever you get stunted emotionally is where you are stunted in your current relationships. And that, you know, you may not believe that. That's fine. Like I said, you don't like what I'm saying? Keep it moving. You don't like it? Don't hate. Just click off. Okay? So back to the people in relationships who are completely fucking miserable, who self-abandon in every way, or maybe you're the narcissist who's just completely, you know, steamrolling over everybody in your life, and you don't give a fuck about anybody else's needs, and you just want me, you know, and you're like, I wonder why my partner's so miserable. I don't give a fuck. Just do what I need you to do, you know. Or maybe you're the one who's like, I never do anything for myself. I never have time for myself. Everybody always demands so much of me. Oh, woe is me. Oh, I hate you for making me so miserable, but I'm going to stay with you no matter what, because that makes me look like the good guy, you know. I'm miserable, but I'm a self-sacrificing martyr. And I'm not going to change. I'm not going to push back on you and say, look, I want to stay in this marriage. I don't want to leave you. I do want to be with you, but I need this and this and this and this and this and this and this. And then you have to stick to it. And if that makes that person irate and hate you, then good riddance. Because why would you want to fucking self-sacrifice yourself for someone who doesn't even want you to be happy? You know, I'm getting whiny again. Why would you want to self-sacrifice your life for a person who doesn't want you to be happy, or for a relationship that doesn't serve you or suit you or match with you well, that requires you to give up so much of what you need and deserve as a person? You know, what you need and deserve as a person is to have sex with every human being in the world. Like someone once told me, that was his goal in life when he was 12, and by the time I met him in his 30s, it seemed to still be his goal to physically have intercourse with every single living, breathing female, I guess, over a specific age, I don't know. You know, and he's married now. He is married, and he's married to a woman who supposedly is into threesomes and stuff with other women, but how far is he going to push her? Who knows? I'm sure at some point I'm going to find out that they're getting divorced because she's going to be sick of his shit, or he's going to fall in love with another woman who's even more freaky. Who knows, you know? Okay, so like that woman, maybe she's totally happy and I'm being judgmental, you know? But there are so many people in situations where they're doing things they don't really want to do just to stay with the person who wants them to do the things they don't want to do, or they're not doing things that they do really want to do because if they do those things, the person who they've chosen they want to stay with is going to get mad and leave them. So you are fucking miserable and you stay with this person who they're not really happy anyway, because the truth is they don't actually love you for real. You see, that's the whole thing that maybe I didn't get to before, is that if you are miserable and the person you're with Like the things that you want to do to be happy, if that makes them unhappy, they don't actually really love you. And if they don't really genuinely love you, they will never love you. And no matter what you do, they're not gonna love you. And so you're not gonna be happy because you're never gonna be loved. Maybe you're needed and maybe you fill many roles. And, maybe you've learned that, it's your job to be subservient to someone else. Maybe that's like the good wife does whatever her husband wants, or maybe the good husband does whatever his wife wants. You're a self-sacrificing martyr and you're miserable. And then the person you're self-sacrificing for ends up completely miserable too, because you're not fucking happy. And you know what? It's not cool to be around someone who's never happy. My ex used to come home angry every day, and he would walk through the door with kind of an angry face, and I wouldn't get really a friendly hello or a nice welcome. And after a long time of therapy, and we would argue a lot of the time. He would come home angry, and I wouldn't be angry. I would go to the door to greet him, hello, and then I would be confronted by an angry face, and it was like, okay, I'm just gonna go back to what I was doing. You're mad, and then before I knew it, we were fighting. And after many years of therapy, he explained in a very long kind of way that basically he would worry so much about us arguing on his way home from work that whatever good mood he may have been in from, his relatively benign day would turn into anger and fear, because he was so nervous and so mixed up about having an argument with me that he would come home and greet me angrily and then blame it on me when we would get into a fight. Like, you see, I knew we were going to have an argument. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You just came home angry, and 5 minutes later we're fighting, and you're blaming me? But this was how my life was, And, I'm just saying, like, when you're so unhappy, if you have children, they know you're unhappy. They can sense it, And when you normalize misery, when you make it so normal to be unhappy and to be miserable, or to be screaming and yelling, or to be cold and distant and fighting, or to just like never enjoy each other, to never smile at your partner. I mean, okay, one ex that I remember being like, we never kiss. And he was like, I don't like kissing. And I'm like, wait, that's like a pretty big thing to say. You don't like kissing. And he's like, yeah, I just don't like kissing. So I'm like, okay, so that just leaves me. I'm fucking out. I'm out of kissing. I don't get to kiss anymore, because if I'm supposed to be faithful to you, you're the only one I get to kiss, but you don't like kissing. Well, either I'm going to have to force somebody who doesn't want to kiss me, and that's not fun. Or I just don't get to kiss, and he wasn't that into sex either. I mean, I was engaged to him and we lived together, and our sex life was the pits, I was just like, ugh, this is so lackluster. I mean, you don't even want to kiss me, but yet I'm supposed to have sex with you? Like, how does that exactly work? That is not, I mean, the guy, I was in art school, I was working a job, I would come home with my art, I would be so excited, and he would be sitting on the couch playing video games with his big fat best friend. He wouldn't even turn his eyes off of the sports he was watching, or the sports-related video games he was playing, or whatever. There was other kinds with pew, 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 and stupid stuff, and I'm like, you can't even bear to look at me. Like, you can't take your eyes off of the screen to even say hello to me. And yet his friend usually would. Oh, hey, how are you? Oh, that's pretty cool what you made. With a guy that I'm supposed to marry, doesn't give a flying fuck about anything. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, that was my first fiance that did not end up in a marriage. And thank God, because otherwise it would have ended in a divorce. But I was just like, he was the first supposedly normal guy I had ever dated, and he was the most boring, lamest, unartistic, unmusical, just like, this guy is so, like, he was one of those people that he's going to be the same exact person in 50 years from now. He's probably going to be just exactly the way he used to be, except fatter and balder. And he is a lot fatter and balder than he was back then. And I was just like, this person is not right for me. You know, he's not right for me. And I thought that, you know, I spent almost 5 years of my life with this person. And we bought a house together. And I made a life with him. I was completely financially. Most of my social life was regarding him. You know, I still had a couple of friends that I had before him, and when I decided to end that situation, my mom said something like, well, you know how difficult you are to love, so maybe you really need to think about this. And I'm like, wow, that's my encouragement, you know. And then later she was like, you know, she knew we weren't supposed to be together, but it's like, you know, this guy is not right for me in any way. And just because he's nice, he's supposedly nice, but I don't think it's nice when you don't even look at your girlfriend and say hello. That doesn't make you nice, okay? You know, and how many people marry that guy anyway? How many people just allow themselves to believe that they are so difficult to love that they might as well just stay with this person who doesn't really love them anyhow? Maybe I am difficult to love, you know, I'll give you that. I am difficult to love, but at least I want to be loved. I don't want to be not loved and treated like shit because I'm difficult to love, so that means I'm just going to not be loved and I'm going to be treated like crap, or, you know, you're unhappy all the fucking time, but yet you want to blame this relationship where, like, a couple of the people that I know who were miserable in their relationships and they were going to stay no matter what, they broke up now because the person was like, no, fuck this, I'm leaving. Yet they're still just as miserable, or they still have the same fucking problems they had before. You know, maybe they're different problems, but they're similar. You know, like one of them had money problems. Well, money problems. It's been many years from now and the money problem's still there, you know, like, so that's another thing. Like, if someone is miserable and they refuse to change and they're willing to stay with you, that doesn't really say much, okay? If we're not that happy, but you are working on yourself and I feel truly loved and there is real deep love and respect, you know, like, you be the best you, like Ralph Smart says, be your best version. You know, I'm going to be my best version. And if your best version and my best version are good, well matched, then we'll stay together. And like Catherine Woodward Thomas says, like, she was married for 10 years. And at some point it became clear, even though we were the best match at the time when we got married 10 years ago, we have both grown and changed so much. And we did not grow and change in a way that continues to mean that we are still a good match for the next decades to come. And, you know, sure, I want to marry somebody for all eternity, but considering that I'm not super young at this point, and I've already kind of had a few guys I thought I might marry, and one that I was like, you know, living with for 7 years, you know, which was not a marriage at all, but we had 2 children and, you know, a family of sorts. And, you know, so that was sort of like, okay, we never even came close to getting engaged, but yet we had a family. So here I am, single again, and I have all this experience, and I need to find the person who's going to dive deep with me, who's going to come to the surface with me. Like, don't dive deep and fucking drown and stay there and be like, I'm miserable and dead, but hey, let's stay together. No. Nope. So I hope that you'll leave your fucking miserable relationship and get healthy, and, you know, and maybe then you can generate a healthy relationship which will benefit the world, because the world needs healthy relationships so that we can raise healthy children, because those miserable fucking relationships are generating miserable fucking children, and they're spitting out people who are going to only be miserable in a fucking relationship. So be happy, stop spreading misery, and stop killing animals or having other people do it for you, and ingest happiness and peace and nonviolence and kindness, and be that in your life. See you next time.